Hi, and welcome to Healthy Conversations. Today I have with me Mimi Prunella Hernandez, and we've known each other for a long time, haven't we? She was the executive director of the American Herbal Guild for about 10 years and did an outstanding job with that. And she recently published a National Geographic Herbal, which is a great achievement. I've got your book right here, and we'll give people links to where to get it in the description below. And she's also received the Botanical Excellence Award from the American Botanical Council, and she currently is helping to uh, take care of a native plant sanctuary. So that's really important work, preserving our plants. So welcome, Mimi. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Stephen. Yep. It's so great to see you. We go way back with work with the HG and have met in person several times, and really happy to be here face to face with you in this new format of ours and these modern times.
Yep. Well, tell me a little bit about your how you came to write this book. I've been looking through it. It's really nicely done. I like the way you have a very friendly conversational tone about talking about the plants. So,
Thank you.
can you
Thank
want to
you.
tell us a little bit about your book?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, it's a huge milestone on my herbalist path. And, prior to writing the book, my teaching experience was almost all centered on verbal, talking to people, talking to clients, or teaching classes or lecturing. So it was all kind of an oral type of platform. And so when it came to writing, I definitely had to dig deep. It was like, it was almost like, this like big ball of cotton wisdom, and you had to like extract it into a linear thread to like put it on paper. And it took me a while to get into that kind of, new rhythm with writing. And now, like, I'm on it. But um, yeah, so that was really interesting too. And it's a reference book. And so most of the book is written in like a third person. So the intro and the epilogue are written from me personally addressing the reader, which is really great. But, writing about some herbs without really sharing my personal interactions was a challenge. But, there are also short entries on 100 different herbs. And then throughout the book, I'm just highlighting some of the most, pivotal traditions in the world of herbal medicine, and just bringing a lot of light to the work of herbalists and the things that we have to consider, things like sustainability and how we credit these originators of wisdom, and how herbalists use and look at these plants and how we sense them, and energetics, and so it's written by an herbalist and it's written for the public at large. But I wanted the public to get a sense of, first, that herbalists exist. So it's not just written by some scholar. Just really pointing out how, you know, uh, homestead herbalists or kitchen herbalists use these things, or how a clinical herbalist might view, certain plants, and just highlighting a lot of the work that herbalists do in the community and as we engage with these medicinal herbs.
Well, herbalism is a very holistic way of thinking. The we in Western medicine, we're used to this idea of thinking of, oh, here's a disease, here's a remedy for it, but
Mhm.
that's not how we think with herbalism. And so, reducing what we understand about a plant to a linear format is not an easy thing to do. I struggle with it all the time. How do you really convey the holistic idea of, and in fact, it's a whole problem with the whole herbal community at large, because we don't really follow the Western medical model, right?
Absolutely. And, we have different ways of perceiving plants, and different ways of perceiving the body through different language structures, depending on, the background of the herbalist. I think that the the lens of energetics is such a beautiful way to convey, what we see in a plant, what we feel in a plant. and then associate those patterns to the person in front of us. Like, you have this plant that's cool and it's moist and it's soft, and you have this person in front of you that's hot and dry and rigid. And so we're like matchmakers to these like different energies or different descriptors that we use to convey plants. And of course, I love science and I'm clinically trained, so I'm still going to interject with some scientific quips and some research base and some clinical gems. But I'm also going to talk about the folk herbalist, and because in my life, in my family life, I'm very much a folk herbalist in my traditions. And but I also can put on that science cap and look at that research and see how I can convey that as well.
Yeah, I think the research is useful and helps us with teaching people about it. But like you say, the energetics of just seeing how the personality and characteristics of the plant match out how to balance a person. I like. I saw an interview recently with David Winston. He was saying something. Been saying a long time. Treat people, not diseases. You know,
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
look at the person. So, in your experience working with herbalists, we're quite a diverse bunch, aren't we?
It really, I mean, because herbalism is, we all have a lineage of herbalism. Every single person has a lineage of herbalism somewhere in their ancestry. We all come from a diversity of paths and belief systems, and so it's not, it can become political, but it's not political. I mean, it's just like all this, uh, you know, all these factors that go into the way a person practices herbalism. And so in an organization like the American Herbalist Guild, where I was the director for about 11 or 12 years, it was working with all those different variety of perspectives, and being open to all of them, and having just really prioritizing a high standard of education, a high standard of ethics, and just quality interactions, and really just organizing a lot of different projects, a lot of different people in this role, where we had 12 board members, 10 committees, thousands of members around the world, projects, all kinds of events to coordinate. And so, yeah, a lot of people, a lot of projects, a lot of interactions, and a lot of diplomacy and patience throughout all of that.
Absolutely. So you were inspired, according to your bio, from Colombian and Mexican grandparents. So how has that heritage influenced the way you see herbs and herbal medicine?
I think it plays most deeply into like my own personal relationship with plants and my own interpersonal healing along this path. When I began my career in herbalism, I was very science centric, very academic, because that was just my academic background. And it really wasn't until I was very immersed in the world of herbalism as a career path where it just kind of hit me that. My family's traditions have a lot of value in the work I'm doing, and then it kind of came full circle in like opening myself beyond just research and academia and clinical practice, and like really feeling the depth of what healing plants can offer, and so that just really helped connect me to my grandparents and my family, and kind of hold that torch for our own traditions.
I think there's a tendency in modern society to discount the wisdom of traditional people, and I think that's a big mistake that we make.
Yeah,
Because we're losing a lot of valuable understanding of the world around us.
in some ways that happened along our path. My family My parents immigrated to this country, and when you come to the United States from a more traditional centric areas, you kind of want to westernize, you want to fit in, you want to like say, oh, I have insurance now, and we have like western medicine and all this, and Mimi's going to be a doctor. And and when I didn't become a doctor, and I told my mom, I'm like, look, I always known I'm going to be a healer, and I'm going to work, I want to learn more about real world medicine, and to me that's herbs and plants, mom. And my mom just rolled her eyes. It was like we came to this country to like modernize, and so it took a while for my, because it skips generations sometimes, and it took a while for my family to see that this was worthwhile, and that I was able to carve out a niche, and really help others along the way. And of course, after the book came out, they're all like really proud now.
You're vindicated.
I'm not the black sheep
See, I do know what
anymore.
I'm talking about. Right. Yeah, and so you're currently involved in helping to preserve our plants. So you want to talk a little bit about the importance of that right now? Because
Sure.
I know that the downside of commercial herbalism and herbs becoming more popular is that we're not always sustainably harvesting our plant medicines.
hmm
So,
So I live in the Blue Ridge Mountains in the Appalachian Range, just in the foothills. And it took me a long time. I didn't like really put roots down, and I wasn't really able to like buy a home and all that until very recently. And part of my agreement with God and myself was that, if we can manifest this, if we can manifest a homestead, and I could put roots down for my children and future generations, I promise God that I will take care of the plants on this property, that I will like really be a steward, and honor like previous generations who were here taking care of this land. And it's just so amazing, because I live in a county where there's so much plant diversity and so many rare plants, and lots of golden seal and black cohosh and ginseng even. And so I just think it's so important, and to align with organizations like the United Plant Savers, who's really educating us on how to be stewards, on how to cultivate, some of these native plants in the wild, and just how to like educate and protect, and preserve. More recently in my life, that's been a real central value, to be really present with that work, and encourage other people. Especially there's so many landowners, there's so many people who have lots of land who don't even know the treasures that are on there. And so a lot of it is just speaking to those landowners, and empowering
mhm.
their own like knowledge of what's there, and how important it is to be protective of those resources.
Yeah, that's great because I think that's a very important thing for the future going forward. Because uh, I've often seen that's a problem we have in our Western society is we don't think of ourselves in stewardship. And I know Native Americans were taught that they had to think about the consequences of their actions 7 generations into the future, and we tend to think in terms of quarterly corporate profits, not in terms of the long-term effect of what we're doing on the planet and our grandchildren, great grandchildren, and so forth. So I honor you for doing that. Uh, so anyway, this is a really nice book. I encourage you to get a hold of a copy of it. We'll put links in the description below, as well as the links to Mimi's website if you want to get a hold of her, do a consult with her, or learn more about classes or things she's doing. Thank you for being with us today, Mimi. We'll look forward to talking to you again on another episode of Healthy Conversations. So goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.